Hey guys, welcome back to Tech for Granted, a show about African technology and issues surrounding African youth. So let's start with a recap of last week and what we were discussing. We talked about the report by Stack Overflow and their findings. Something that we'd follow up is on maybe how we use our time to be most productive. So I'd like to hear the other guests' opinion on how they use their time to be more productive. Do you wake up and maybe write a list so that you can check it at the end of the day to make sure that you've tackled all your list? Or so what mechanisms do you use to make sure you're most productive?
I personally plan my week. I do my planning weekly. Because I work, most of my schedules are scheduled from 8 to 5. Is scheduled by the meetings I have in the office. But prior to that, I have some other personal readings I need to do. So on like a Saturday evening, I'd plan from Sunday what I need to do by Sunday. Then on Monday, what time I allocate for the time I need to read. Then, so any extra time I get, I try and allocate it on a Saturday to be able to plan for the whole week.
And has this worked for you?
It has worked a lot because I tend to cover more ground when it comes to, you might say, yes, I'll read tomorrow, I'll read by Friday. But then you realize you don't even have that time to read.
Sure.
So by you planning early, you can get to see that if I miss on this slot, then there's this extra slot which I can be able to cover up on. So it tends to make you more effective when it comes to accomplishing stuff.
Yeah.
Personally, I'd say what I'd do is break down huge tasks into smaller chunks, so you can see what can be done fast, what can be done if they're not necessarily interdependent in a synchronous manner. So I can do the easiest ones, so the ones that can be done faster, then tackle the much more difficult and complicated ones. And when it comes to like just good productivity for the entire day, I'd say once you wake up, avoid social media for the past several hours, just to get like a clear start for the day and have a clear mind.
For me, I do daily planning.
Yeah.
I plan my days and not my the other way. I just plan my day, say by tomorrow, this is where I want to have reached. By the end of the day, this is what I want to have accomplished. And that has worked for me. And something else I know is a cliche for most software developers is pair programming.
Yeah.
I tried it for the first time this week, and it's actually really helped out for me. I have covered most of the ground because of that.
Okay, that's good.
For me, basically, what I do is I write down my agendas and I paste them on the wall. And in each agenda, I break down it into simple objectives. And I have to at least do some of those objectives every day. For instance, if I want to learn something new, let's say it's a programming language, I write down all the topics I need to learn about that programming language. Then I start ticking them off. Every day, I make sure I do maybe 3 or 2, and I tick them off. So by the time I'm done, the smaller objectives, I've already completed the bigger objectives. So at the end of the day, again, I look what else do I need to learn. Again, I paste it on the wall. So it's always something I'm visually seeing, so that even if I forget, I know it's right there. Well, okay, I need to do this.
I can also say considering what Ian does, he pastes the tasks, what he needs to do on the wall. There are also tools you can use. One I can recommend is called Todoist. It's really convenient, and you can schedule all your tasks for the entire week or month, depending on how you like to plan out your things. And you get notifications when they're due, when they're overdue, and stuff like that. Another one is called Milabud.
I think that I can agree with all of your points. For me this week, what has worked is just leaving the house and going to work in some remote area. So in terms of commuting, I think I'm just going to accept that I'm going to be commuting to my place of work. So Anyway, another thing that we talked about last week was the Jumia IPO. I think early this week it was listed on the New York Stock Exchange. The Jumia CEO was interviewed, and he had some comments to say about how this will affect, how Jumia being listed on the New York Stock Exchange will affect their position in the African market. And
from what he said, the gist of the statement was there aren't enough skilled developers in Africa.
Yes.
So
what do you guys think as software developers? How do you feel about this? And even as software developers who are trying to get jobs in the industry and trying to just elevate yourselves and to learn more about the industry, how do you feel about his position on
personally, I'd
African
say,
developers?
Necessity depends on the skill level. So if you're looking for developers beyond a certain skill or with respect to increasingly complex tasks, So you'd probably find a shortage in Africa. Even if there are developers who can really execute on such tasks, they'll be marginal. They're very minimal because the education system in Africa, even whether it's both the regular formal education systems and the coding boot camps that we have in Africa, are not really effective when it comes to educating developers to that particular level, to get to that particular level. Yeah, that's my take on it. Yeah.
And do you think that African developers are not qualified to work for companies which are large scale, such as Jumia?
They are qualified depending on the need, because it's also impractical to say that there's a completely lack of developers in Africa who can serve some of Jumia's needs from a technical standpoint. That's impossible. Like someone had said that Jumia is a web application at the core of it. So there are a lot of African developers who can do that. And there are a lot of companies in Africa that have a bit more complexity or work on the same basis that actually hire African developers. So the notion that there are completely zero developers in Africa who can meet Jumia's needs is, from my point of view, misguided. Yeah.
Sorry, just to pose a question to you, Eugene. You mentioned that you think, depending on the necessity, now in with Michelle's question on Jumia specifically, do you think the statement was right made by the CEO? Like there's nothing. Do you think an African developer can develop a whole Jumia website?
Yeah.
So you tend to say that he was wrong in his statements.
It depends on the skill level.
That's what I asked. Do you think there's anything in that website that an African developer cannot be able to attain?
At face value, no. But now we can't really understand what happens behind the scenes.
But I'm asking, you are a developer.
I'm a developer, yeah.
You've done JavaScript. You might even know PHP. That's a web interactive language, scripting language. Yeah. So do you think with JavaScript and PHP and the HTML,
you can build
even with Angular that you struggle with,
even Python, you can build.
So do you think then the statement was right?
It wasn't right in an absolute sense.
So you can be able to develop a Jumia.
You can develop a Jumia.
So there's no exceptions.
It depends.
There's nothing like necessity when it comes to the Jumia
case. It depends on the level of complexity, because I'm sure there are other back-end processes that you're not probably aware of. Yeah.
No, you see, you might decide, yes, you're using C, you might be using Python or whatever. But when it comes to the functionality of the website, you need to do a purchase, you need to view all those interactions, the web interactions. Yeah. Do you as a developer feel confident in developing such a thing?
Yeah, that can be done.
So there's nothing.
Many African developers.
Exactly. Yeah. On face value, you can be able to do everything, yes? So the statement stated by the Jumia CEO that Africans are incompetent when it comes to development is wrong.
That's wrong. That's why he said the notion that no African developers can actually meet any of Jumia's needs is misguided.
Not any, the whole Jumia. Do you think you can meet the whole Jumia platform? With a group of developers, maybe it will take time if you're doing it by yourself. But do you think if the 5 of us, 6 of us here can be able to sit down as developers and come up with our Jumia, do you think it's possible?
Assuming what is needed is what can be perceived from the face value. Yes, it can be done by any African developer who's good.
Maybe Levi or Ian can answer that question.
Okay.
Personally, I think it's totally possible to do it every single part of it, both the front end and the back end part of it, because since we graduated from coding, I know of 4 guys who have actually done something similar to what Jumia is doing, and they have actually done it and it's in market. So what does he mean by there are no skilled African developers?
Yeah.
And that statement to me doesn't sit right as an African developer, and because this is something that we have owned as our own, it's Kenyan, we have owned it as Kenyan, yet they cannot employ even some of us. That's so sad for me.
It all depends on where it's coming from, right? Because if you're going to compare to the rest of the world, as in he's saying, hey, I'm getting guys from Portugal, I'm getting guys from Germany, I'm getting guys from America and so on. And then you're looking at, okay, in Africa, are they skilled enough? Use the word skilled. His term was skilled enough. So what type of level of skill is he looking for, right? As he said, okay, from my expression, I've seen Jumia, right? It's not as easy as it looks. Even as a software developer, when you start getting into things like algorithms and data and how you can query data and stuff, things like that, and how it interacts with the server, there's some more complex things that require mathematical and some things that you cannot see, right? That you cannot know behind just by looking at it from the user interface, right? I mean, it's true. Like some of these things, if you look at it, I don't know if you guys have watched the Mark Zuckerberg movie, the one they did it. You remember the algorithm they wrote on the window, right? There's an algorithm of finding friends, right? It's something like that. Okay, how are you going to have people who can both add this type of expertise? So it's when you use the term skilled, looking for someone who can actually create such systems. And let's just be honest, somebody talked about education, right? Most Africans, if you want to get the type of education you require, we go to places like Harvard, America. We don't get that education here. If you do computer science in Nairobi University, we've all been there. We've all done computer science. We've done BBIT, right? We know the type of level of expertise we get from that. How do they support us, right? So when he says enough skilled, he's not saying they aren't developers. They are developers, but how skilled are they? Based on where they're coming from, the interactions, what have they done in the past? How does the system support them? But if you go to countries like Germany, man, you find education there is even free. And there's a support system that allows them to explore and venture into new things. And Jumia was starting off, remember that. So they needed to have an impact that was like, hey, man, we're here and we're playing around and we're here to bring competition. Because there are other people who could look for better expertise and better people to do this. So in some sense, he makes sense, right? But again, it comes from where he's coming from, a strategic point of view. Yeah.
So maybe to pose to you the same question Cynthia posed to Eugene. Are you agreeing that since he was starting off, there are no African skilled developers who could start off and be where Jumia is today? Are you agreeing that we as Africans just don't know mathematics because as you put it, you say there are some algorithms that are behind there that we as Africans might see they are challenging. So are you agreeing that we as Africans aren't skilled? We are not equipped with the right skill to do what Jumia needed done?
When is the last time we ever got any cutting edge technology from Africa? The cutting edge in terms of software development in Africa, right? These things are being invented in these universities all the time, right? There's a reason why out of 100 billionaires, I think almost like a third or 1/3 of them come from Stanford and Harvard and all this. So there's something that those universities provide for these developers or for these engineers that allows them to be on the cutting edge. And that's what he was looking for, right? He was looking for a next Mark Zuckerberg who could create this app because the guy doesn't know much about it. He's a business guy, right? So he has to look for someone who's like, hey, you know what? I want this to be done in this way. Okay, what were you experimenting on? Okay, But here in Africa, we've been in the university. We know what happens there, right? Most of us have to be self-taught. We don't have the infrastructure to help. We don't have those fancy facilities, because my friend was telling me he was in Cape Town and he told me about the facilities they have there, the cutting edge facilities they had there, They allow you to hey, here's a budget, do whatever you want, explore. It supports the system. Us, we don't have that kind of support, but we have potential to be one of the best developers in Africa, provided that we have the support system that facilitate that, So right now we're still very rudimentary. I think we just started off with technology. If you look at it, Africa is pretty young. Our generation is now the working class. We're the ones who are supposed to be at the forefront of web development because we are young and these things, we found them at our age. But how many are people interacting with this, right? We find guys doing BBIT, but they get the same jobs as somebody who's done BBA. Some guys done computer science and he's working in a bank as a teller. So, how are they supposed to even explore these talents, even if they have them? Unless, us, we're lucky. I'm pretty privileged because we have the level of saying, I can rely on my parents for some time as I do my programming. So financial isn't, it's not really there backing at the back of my head like, hey, man, you need to pay the rent. Some people say, I've been trying to look for work, I haven't found. So there's a guy offering me a job here. I'll just take it and forsake this.
Sorry. I tend to disagree at the end, sadly. Because if you talk about technology, what is the next or last technology that we produced as a country, as a continent? We have so many that we have produced. M-Pesa, or in one case, among others, maybe I might not be in the position to list them down at the moment. But then you can see from one of the podcasts that we had with Trey and Harriet, when they said, for example, people coming from Harvard come and get paid thousands of shillings to come and just have internship in Africa. So you see, it is not that we are not smart enough or we do not have the capability or skills that are enough to be able to compete in the market. It's probably the fact that we do not have enough funds. So the fact that you can say Africans do not have enough skill is wrong. Africans have skills and they are very smart. About situations. We try and solve African-based situations, but because you try and tend to compete with technologies that the Europeans, the Americans try and produce, then that is where you go wrong. Because we need to solve the problems that we have at hand in Africa for you to be able to even think about other problems. So I feel like Africans do have the skills and the mindset and are very, very good at math at heart. For us to be able to produce algorithms and statistics that can be able to beat the European standards. Kenya, for example, has one of the best education systems that we have in this world. Is it? Yes?
The most difficult.
Most difficult.
Okay, it's still... yeah, but you get what I mean. Like, we are smart people and the problem is now that just the funding. So maybe the next question would be, how do you go about helping the Kenyan developers to be able to be seen by the other industries in the world as competitive people compared to them saying Africa does not have developers?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What do we do as African developers to be seen by the world to be competent and skillful?
Okay, so from the perspective, I think we start from an early age. We should try to program our children as much as possible that computers and programming is completely normal. We should learn how to code. You know, when they have this mindset and how to look at it in terms of, okay, I could be a doctor, but I could be an engineer, but I could also be a programmer, right? And then also the mindset of, okay, let's look at it this way. For our generation, how many of us had computers in schools? Or how long did we interact with them in school classes of maths or English? We only had like maybe once a week, we'd see, and maybe we'd do some word processing and that's it, right? And some would use them for entertainment, but what else can we add up to that? So it's all about the mindset. How can we create a mindset about technology? Like if you look at the whole atmosphere of where would you reference computer technology? Silicon Valley, right? If you look at it there, I mean, from the times of Bill Gates and Dell and everything, these guys, they're sort of like environment that nurtured people to think otherwise, that, hey, you know what, I could actually be a programmer. And guys saw this and said, you know what, instead of doing maths, okay, I love maths, but what can I do? If I know maths, can I be engineering? No, I could also be a programmer. I could sit down in front of a computer and code, and I love coding and solving problems. And you let their minds move in that imagination and let the children know what they can do. Another thing also, there's a time when you bought something and you saw in the back made in China, you're like, hey, man, they can be fake, isn't it? Mm-hmm. China was associated with fakeness, right? Isn't it? Until nowadays, you're looking at a Chinese product and you're like, yeah, it's a Chinese product. And you're like, okay, I'm wearing a Chinese product. Okay. It's actually no longer what it was, what negative impact it had. So as Africans also, we need to start creating that atmosphere. When the CEO looks at Africa, what does he see? Does he see impoverished people? Does he see people who lack maybe his mindset of what Africa was ever since the times of colonialism to now and what they see in the media? It has changed their mindset. They're like, oh, there's no way African can go to this point. So even in his mindset, he's already saying, okay, there are no African developers. But if we now start telling our children, like, you know, it's okay to be a developer, instead of playing games on your phone, you can use it to create apps. It's interesting. The atmosphere around it should be interesting. Like, who do we want to emulate as a developer? We see Bill Gates. Like, you know, that guy has really engineered a lot of people, right? He's told a lot of guys, he's inspired a lot of people that they could become the next Microsoft. They could be the next.
So you're trying to say we need an African who is putting us on the where we can actually be seen and what we can do.
And the environment around it also, the technology environment around it should be sort of like how do I explain this? You know, it's like, okay, when you're being brought up, what are you told to do most of it? What do you associate yourself with? What are the most successful people around you? They're usually around a certain criteria of professionalism, right?
You want to emulate.
Yes. Mentors, and usually doctors, engineers, and the same for generations always been like that. But until even recently, maybe even computer billionaires were not known as Mark Zuckerberg. Can you be the next Mark Zuckerberg? He was a billionaire at 21, 22, right? Isn't it? You see, you could find Mark Zuckerberg. He sort of showed people that, you know what, you don't need to be old to be a CEO. You can do programming and you can actually make something of yourself.
Yeah.
So we need more of that. Even here in Africa, they're like in the talk around it, even as our politicians, when they're talking about other things, they should talk about certain things. How can you say, look, man, you guys can do this. This industry that somebody created. Maybe even that M-Pesa guy, I don't know what the story was, but we've never really known him, right? We just hear stories. There's always this and that, this and that, this and that. So the guy, if we was around, we could actually say he could be a mentor for many, but really. But the closest mentor I know is the guy from Cellulant, right?
Okay, sorry. to cut you short. I was just asking, as much as you have said, yes, let's do this, let's do that. Like you as an individual, what do you think you can do? Don't say about the education system needs to change, the MPs,
For me.
the people.
Yeah.
Personalize it and say, I, for example, give a point, I need to do this and this and this. What do you
for me
think
to
as a software developer in Africa, Kenya, you need to do to help other developers or people be able to see Africans as good developers?
Personally, I would say,
As you think about it, Ian.
I would say something that an individual software developer, not necessarily I alone, is the way people look at code or programming mostly is something that exists in isolation. But the moment we change the way we look at technology, in the sense that it's something that really intersects with every other thing, because it's like it makes the world your canvas, for lack of a better word. So what you can do personally, even other people, is look at how you can improve the situation around you using the knowledge you have, and use it and build on that. Because once you mentioned something about creating homegrown solutions in Africa.
Yeah.
So once you do that, you're able to come up with technology, you're able to innovate around problems that actually make sense to you, things that you can actually create effectively and efficiently, and that actually shines a light on our capacities and our capability. Yeah.
Okay. For your answer, the other day I was talking to a friend and he asked me, "You guys have like a programming rock star in Africa or anywhere?" And I looked at it like, okay, if you're going to be a talented coder, how well are you known? Like for real, are we like rock stars? You know, if you look at maybe our TV presenters, you'd see there's a TV presenter, radio presenter, and they're known, they're famous. You'll see them walking around the street and you can say, I know that person who does this. But for a programmer or a developer, even if they are star programmers, how many of us can say, look, I know a programmer who's in Kenya who's done this and he's like this and he's good at this? Do you guys
I know I can.
You can?
Quite a number.
You can say quite a number. Okay. In that sense, for me, I don't know any, right? It's not lack of trying. There's no buzz around these people. There's no buzz. There's buzz around other things that are about celebrities, things that don't really add any value. We hear buzz about that. So we'll see them and say, there's that. We know there's a socialite called Ferasedika, but what developer do we have? Do we have that? So we need to create such a role. Like for us as developers, we need to find a way how we can, raise our voices, even the ones who are there. And again, those are the idea of, as a developer, you're seen as a nerd, and the social life is not really your thing. You like being a recluse, doing your coding behind the screen, and that's it. But we've never really seen that. So I think there are really good developers out there, but I feel like we need to, this is a very good platform to start, by the way. This platform allows that to be seen, right? So that when I'm tuning into this platform, like I've gotten so much information from this platform, but else, I think we still need to work on that. We need to even
for visibility.
Yeah, visibility, branding.
Okay.
We still need to do that.
Yeah, for me, I think I will approach this from a branding perspective, in the sense that Eugene just said, like, the world is your canvas when it comes to development. And I am thinking every artist has a signature. Like you could just look at a painting and know this is Leonardo da Vinci and this is Monet, because they have that signature. So I think if we take this initiative as African developers to actually put out the most quality work that we can out there, so that maybe when people now come looking, they will find this work and they will actually see this is quality. And we as Africans will no longer be known for lack of skill, but other for people who put out quality work consistently. I think that would greatly help to change the image of how people have about Africans. But
I think that for me personally, I'd say, just to sum up what you guys have said, is action. Let's just show. I think that even there's someone who said a few weeks ago that if they had Instagram or the social media platforms that we have, they'd be selling, like 15, 20 years ago, they'd be selling everything on the internet and they'd have made so much money. And right now, as much as they don't understand the infrastructure and how it works, they still use their platforms to actually do something. So I think that our social media platforms are places where we can showcase our talent other than the pictures that we just take with our families and friends. We can use the platforms to showcase like what we can do so that we reach the people that we want to reach. And you never know who will see your social media platform. It can be that student who just wants to know what code is about, or just just wants to see like the magic behind the code. I the first time that I used code and I actually created a good website, it was like magic to me. So I think that the best way is to just act. Does anyone have any other points so that we can actually just sum up what? Yeah.
Just like what Levi said, quality.
Yeah, quality.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a comment that I saw on Twitter and it said, let's be honest here. Jumia didn't succeed because it was African. Jumia owes part of its success to a marketplace that doesn't believe in domestic brands. It's heavy lifting to build a successful local brand. It is heavy lifting to build a successful local brand because you're always viewed suspiciously. So even when you use your social media platforms to showcase like what you can do on the web and your just professional skill set, do you find that people usually question like what you're doing, or they're more fascinated by what you're doing, or do they usually support you in your personal endeavors? Or have you ever tried to do anything and gotten support from your family and friends? And should we create a culture around supporting our own domestic brands so that we can create the Jumias and the M-Pesas and just something that we can own as Africans, just to sum up the conversation?
I think, as they say, a hero cannot be accepted in their own town or something. So I understand what you mean, like by not finding support from the local people. So, yeah, I think it's for you to be able to be seen as a very good programmer, as Ian says, a rock star.
Yeah,
you need to put your best foot forward and really work hard for it.
Uber raised $1 billion for its self-driving car unit. It raised the cash from Toyota, Denso, and Vision Fund by SoftBank. So something this raises is, do you think that this will work, or is it just a craze that will only serve like the first world and other developed countries? And will the solutions they're creating over there be applicable in our local spaces? Yeah. What do you think is the viability of that?
Personally, I don't think it's viable yet. We need to be able to regulate our transport system, whereby a car probably might not be able to predict the traffic rules that we don't follow. For example, a motorbike.
yeah.
A motorbike driving on the wrong side of the lanes, people crossing from places which are not meant to be crossing areas. So I feel like we still have a long way to go before we can be able to implement it without any casualties in Africa, mostly Kenya.
For me, I think I see why they're doing it. It makes sense for Uber to have self-driving cars, because I think the biggest liability Uber has at the moment are the drivers themselves. So from a business perspective, to get rid of the drivers and just have the cars that they own being self-driven, it makes a lot of business sense. But also, I also don't think it's really a good idea, because I believe there's some people, actually most of us enjoy driving themselves. You see people who do driving as a form of relaxation, and I don't want that to be taken away from me. So its viabilities, we are still yet to see, but to me, I don't think it's that viable.
And where will the drivers go?
Well, that brings in the fear whereby we're saying technology will be taking over our jobs. So I think the drivers will need to find other jobs.
Yeah.
Okay, for me, I see it's kind of like against what Uber stands for, because it was a noble cause for them to have a way that a driver will be able to hire his own car, drive around, get some money, and also Uber makes money. So when they have self-driving cars, they'll be taking that job away from the people. They have about 12,000 drivers right now. For me, again, I'm thinking about it again. Okay, in Kenya, it'll work well, but if in case, let's say if they could come and install the self-driving car in my car, that would be a dope thing. But in terms of it getting around seeing driverless cars from one company, I feel it'll also lose what Uber stands for from what it started from the beginning. And right now, self-driving cars have gone so far. Like, I think you guys know about the Teslas, right? What they can do, and how far they can go. So with Uber venturing into this thing, I feel like they're just venturing because now it's a thing and they have money, and maybe they feel like, hey, we're also missing out. But how we'll make money from that? Maybe if they lease out the technology. But in terms of giving it to actual cars and trying to replace what they have right now, I feel like we reach a point where it may not work so well, but who knows? The future knows, but I don't know.
Did not work where in Africa or everywhere.
In Africa, it definitely work, especially if you can sit back and just let the traffic go and you can sleep and get to work.
I don't think it will. I do not think it will work.
I agree with Cynthia on this. Like, for example, in Kenya, you drive, yeah?
Yeah.
So, to what extent do other motorists, even pedestrians, motorcyclists respect the rules? Have you ever been in a situation whereby you're in a one-way road, but you had to find a motorcycle coming towards your direction from the opposite side? Or you have like where matatus overlap and stuff like that.
And that's why we need AI to drive us, so those things don't happen. You don't see somebody coming.
How many people can afford it? We have to be realistic as well, as you bring up and saying it's going to be viable. It's most of the people in Kenya buy cars just to make do because they need to get to work on time. So for them, I don't think they can be able to, in a large scale, to be able to prevent traffic situations in a large scale, be able to afford it at the moment.
You know what? Sooner or later, maybe in the future, or even in our time when you're older, we're gonna have self-driving cars as the cars. Like you're buying a car, it comes with that functionalities as the get-go, right? That's how it's gonna be.
As the cost of production.
Yes, you're gonna buy the same car, the same value with that feature in it. There's a time when we had CD players, it was like a big thing. Now it's like, you don't need it anymore. Now you just need a flash disk, right? So it's the same thing with self-driving cars. It's technology that's going to be normal, so we have to get used to it. And the idea that you're saying maybe some guys driving the wrong way and people breaking rules, how is it going to adapt? I mean, it's going to adapt, and even if there's going to be an accident, you're going to be sure it's not your fault. That way you can always say, you know what, I was on the right way.
I think that one of the problems that self-driving cars has is how is it able to make ethical decisions? Let's say there's a baby here and there's an old woman here. I'm an old man. So those are some of the problems that that self-driving
even
cars
right now, if you just look online and see what self-driving cars can do, it's astonishing.
Yes,
They can actually even read road signs, right?
Yes. But
it's all about, technology is all about small steps, right? What right now we may see as a big thing, soon it'll be like, it's not even a phase. It's not anything that you could even worry about, right?
Really?
Yeah,
but I don't agree, because if you look at the context of where they're testing these cars, they have, let's say, if they are bike riders, there's bike lanes. If there are pedestrians, there are footpaths. But let's say in where we live here in Kenya, the boda uses the pedestrian path. Then a car, especially matatus, they'll use the pedestrian path, and then you'll have people crossing the road, not at zebra crossing, but they'll jump over a barrier just to cross the road at somewhere, just because the bridge is like 20 meters away and they refuse to walk and the sun is shining too much. Kenya, I think African problems are so unique such that, let's say even Uber Pool is a system that works in the States very well because they have I don't know if they have security, but in Kenya, there's still security issues that's around traveling around. But matatus work, so I don't understand how.
For something like Uber Pool, I'd say it's something cultural. Because to what extent would you trust to carry a random stranger in your car? Like
Uber does that.
Yeah, Uber does that. But you see, for the Uber driver, there's an aspect of need, because that's actually his or her job. It's like a normal taxi driver. But let's say it's me, I'm a regular chap who's going to work, and then I can carpool with like 2 other guys and get like 3 other guys to get into my car. It's not a necessity per se. It's just something that can earn me, can be an extra source of income. Will that be enough to break down that cultural barrier? Since that need is the level of need enough to incentivize me to ignore that cultural aspect, whereby there's this blanket assumption that there's a security risk to carrying any random person. Like even in Kenya, how many times will you pick up someone who hails you across the road?
No, not at all. But I think that Uber has already surpassed that. The fact that you even just call a stranger on your phone to come pick you up from your house. I think that but the aspect, I don't know why Uber Pool hasn't worked in Africa yet, but I think there are studies which are ongoing, especially around Nairobi. So on self-driving cars, I think that there's still a long way to go, especially with the transport systems here in Africa and especially here in Kenya. The fact that our roads still have there's places where you'd find a good road, and there's places where you wouldn't find the same bike lane that you'd find on Gong Road, So I think that will still.
And even the bikers,
roadside.
the
I think
cyclists.
it'll work perfectly. In
even
fact,
follow the
it'll work
rules.
so well that it's going to be annoying because it's going to be like this. You're driving. Now, Kenyans, we have this thing where if somebody's crossing, also, you have to bully them not to cross. But that car will just stop and you'll be like, why don't you just go, Because it's going to be following the rules so instinctively. Like, just imagine this, right? Okay, I don't know how to explain it to you, but if you've looked at the online videos on what the self-driving cars can do right now, even if until they even walk roads, right now something like Tesla, you're allowed to drive it. Okay, you can let go and it'll drive you through the highway and so on. Although they tell you still need to hold on to it, but they're going to be so effective, so well. Just 10 years from, even less than 10 years from now, it's going to be astonishing.
Now,
We're asking about now.
the question,
So now it won't.
the question I posed to you is:
Even right now,
they are effective,
will not-
yes, but what goes behind? What goes into making that decision so that they can be effective? As in, what drives their decisions? Like you've said, they look out for signs. Yeah,
they look at the markings, and they even look at visual. They look at
the visuals. Yeah. Because all that they make those decisions based on what someone has programmed. That
It's machine learning, not
machine
AI.
Learning.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
And I'd also like to bring that point where Amazon, if you remember a few months back, Amazon was under fire because their AI system of recruiting was filtering out women because of the people who had already made the system. They were white men, and it was filtering out women in the. So the same thing when it comes to the problems that AI, the self-driving cars, is still facing, is that what kind of data are they collecting? Is it of a certain demography? Does it include all races? Does it, all those factors need to be taken into consideration.
I agree with that because, like, I'm looking here online. There's a study that was done by University of Georgia, Georgia Institute of Technology. It found that racial bias in automated cars,
Yes.
object detection systems. It found that self-driving cars are more likely to hit anyone who isn't white based on algorithmic bias, according to a recent study. You see,
So Ian, by that even fact, you'll be the first one to be hit.
that's a very small thing. Oh, that is very small. It's a very small. That's very just skin color. Like it is because.
but you see, it speaks to a bigger issue when it comes to.
She said something.
decision
Machine learning,
makers.
right?
Yeah,
Machine
yeah,
learning.
yeah.
So it's being tested in Europe, right? Or in America. They're only white people, right? But what if they're testing it here? Will it not adapt to the features?
Will it adapt to the features or will
features-
the entire algorithm have to be rewritten?
No. I don't think so. I don't think so.
To suit the current,
No.
the prevailing conditions of that.
Have you guys heard about the Google duplex? Have you guys heard about it?
Tell us about it.
The AI that makes reservation. You can actually talk to it, converse with it, and you actually think it's a human being. You should just look at the example Google was showing us. That's how far algorithms have reached. They've reached so far that some of these things we're talking about right now, right? They're going to be normal, and they're going to be so normal that you will be like, okay, what's happening?
That's true.
My position on this is that even system, there's this podcast I listened to, it's called Decode. I can't remember the host's name, but she was interviewing some ladies who they had the AI institutes in America somewhere, and they deal with police departments. So the police department uses some AI technology where they take information, like let's say a police officer comes and records that this person has done this, this, and this, and this. So regardless of the information that that policeman, whether they are good or bad, that system is trained, and then it gives an outcome of, let's say, this neighborhood has this certain type of people and it will be prone to, and they one of the findings that they had was that there was a lot of racial bias for certain communities. A lot of black men were being arrested. And, the same thing with AI right now and self-driving cars and companies which use AI technologies to recruit people or whatever. There's certain biases which occur, and it's because there's no input from all sectors of the demographic, that may be women or people of color, or just an inclusion on how this machine is supposed to work. That's my position on AI and maybe self-driving cars under it, yeah.
you know, the human consciousness, like ever since we began in the 1970s, 80s, we used to see things on movies, right? Science fiction movies. And right now, those things are science fiction and right now normal, right?
Yeah.
It's all about the idea of what are we all thinking about?
Yes, I'm saying.
And where are we moving to?
I'm saying we are still far, a bit far, until we have that inclusivity where everyone has part in.
I also thought that is one time early last year, I was thinking we're actually really far, but some feats that I've done in technology, it'll be very, very closer than you think, very, very close, because there's that thing of it's called what singularity or something like that, whereby
Diversity.
Singularity, the idea of singularity, where soon enough the machine will be more intelligent than man, right? Right. So every 2 years, actually, it used to be. Remember the time when they used to remove a phone every 2 years? They started removing them 1 year. Now they remove a phone every 6 months. That's how fast technology is moving. Twice as fast every 2 years. Keeps increasing. So what you think is so far in the future, you'll see it just right here. One day you'll be like, by the way, we were talking about this, and now it's being done. That's what I'm saying. Just look at Google Duplex. I thought that was imaginably far, but it's being done and it's working. So things are happening quite fast in technology, really, really rapid. I was thinking, there's this guy, there's a scientist, I don't know what his name is, but he was saying in the future, it'll be like, see the way we have everything we made of silicon, right? You know, the way at first, one time, silicon as small as a fingernail would cost you like $1,000. Right now, we have memory cards that, like 120 GB is nothing, right? So soon enough, we'll be having silicon everywhere. It'll be what will make our walls. It'll what will make our roofs. It'll be so abundant that it'll be just another thing.
A normal thing.
A normal thing just to see, hey man, that window that's made of silicon, it can do this, it's AI intensive. The same way, it's all about the human consciousness. It's all of us believe and know we're going. If they start talking about AI, it sort of catches on, right? Even at first I didn't believe it, but the more they talked about it, the more they tried it, the more we moved towards that future. So it's all about what we're thinking about and why we're moving. So if somebody comes up with an idea tomorrow and that idea becomes what everybody's thinking, that's what we're going to make happen. And that's I always find that so wonderful about the human nature, right? We see something, we say, let's try it, let's do this. Everybody gets into it and everybody's putting money into it. And all of a sudden, boom, it's there. It's the next thing. And I was checking out some really crazy stuff. Like I was looking at Samsung. Was it Samsung or LG? They have this see-through TV. Right, it's a glass TV. You can see
yes.
And it's like I thought these things were impossible. I'm like, wow, and it's there, and you can actually buy this TV. It's a see-through TV. It's a glass TV. You can see it from one side, the other side. It's all pixelated. And I was like, wow, it's happening. It's here and now.
So from a point of view, just to bring it back, is you think it's only a matter of, you're saying basically
it's a matter of time.
It's a matter of time before it becomes efficient.
If
you still think
it is a matter of time,
it will be
3 years max.
Okay, I don't think time necessarily is a factor in Kenya, to be particular. As we all know, and I'm sure we are all aware, that our economy is not the best at the moment. People are complaining. Money is being scandaled everywhere, left, right, and center. So the fact that Kenyans are complaining even to get their basic needs is a problem. That you can't start thinking about getting AI cars or ML cars. You see, the thing is, the few people who will be able to get the artificial intelligent or machine learned cars will not be able to use it effectively because not all Kenyans will have it. You'll have, yes, your machine learned car in 3 years' time, even 4, even maybe next month you might have it.
Even a Tesla, you can bring one. And
But
right that's
now,
the thing, Ian. I was trying to say that you might have that car, but then you will not get to use it how you'd want to use it because of all the other factors surrounding that your country is not in that position to hold that car. I think from statistics, there are, is it 10% of the people are in the upper scale then, or 7, I don't know. The statistics, 2% is upper and then the rest are down, yeah? Poor people. You see, so that's the thing. You cannot come with an expensive technology, you expect it to work in a society whereby majority of the people cannot be able to suit to and conform to your machine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me just add the last thing. Yeah? Okay. In terms in terms of, it's going to be inevitable, right? We're all going to have AI cars. You're going to buy a car, you're going to buy your VIX, and it's going to become AI-enabled, self-driving, right?
That's fine.
Yeah, that's possible. So for places like Africa, maybe we don't get this technology as they come out, but we eventually get them. They all trickle down eventually because it's a scale of what? Scale of mass production. When you produce something so much, economy of scale, it becomes the norm, right? So eventually, maybe right now, no one really cares about that. Don't change my life if I have a car that drives itself or not. But sooner or later, when you're buying a car, you're going to be asking for that feature. It's going to be there, available for you. It's not going to be any more expensive than your current car right now. So right now, yeah, you could say, but they need to test the future. They need to test it in Kenya. They'll come here, they'll test it. Is it going to work? Eventually, it'll be the thing. So it's the technology may be perfected over a period of time, but its capabilities will drastically change. In fact, I feel like one time AI will be so common that they'll think about other versions of AI, because AI has many levels, Right now, what they're trying to do, I think, is the most rudimentary aspect of AI. But as time goes by, you'll see that AI will be so complex that it probably might be a bit scary. That's why Elon Musk is always talking about it.
Yeah. And I think even as you say AI, there's a big difference between AI and machine learning.
Yeah.
So I think it's good to make it clear that I think the car is a machine learning, not an AI.
Okay.
And just to bring a question, which was we were talking about the AI, the Uber bringing the cars which are machine learned. So, and we say it's not probably the best idea for Kenya in the next 2 years. 2 years. We all agree 2 years? Or less. Okay, 2 years.
But if don't
More than 2 years, yeah.
2 years.
Okay. So there was a new idea proposed by Uber, which was, Eugene, maybe you were mentioning it.
Yeah, Uber is testing out a mass transit system whereby they are testing out usage of buses for public transport. So they're testing it in Egypt and Mexico, and if they find it viable, they'll implement it in Kenya locally. So what do you guys think about that? Considering there are also some startups that have come up that are actually doing the same thing. There's Swivel, Little Cabs also launched their own version of it. Then there's another one called Safari something. I forget the
What's the difference between that and the matatu? Like, what's the difference?
Yeah, so their selling point is it's much more efficient. So the services are better, but they're definitely much.
They avoid traffic.
They don't avoid.
Good question.
True. It's a valid point.
They should come up with one.
I think that one of the struggles that African governments are having, transport is a big issue, and who they want to, the transport that's there right now, it's suitable. They're trying to target a certain
Demographic.
yes, a certain with a certain demographic with how do I explain this? With a certain type of amount of money that they earn. How do I? Okay,
Financial bracket.
exactly. They're trying to target people under a certain financial bracket, and that's why they're trying to come up with systems which will be inclusive and attract such people. So even as the struggle comes, and they're trying to include Uber, and as you said, there's local companies which are already putting out systems like SWVL. I think that local people should take part in this as opposed to giving it to a company as foreign as Uber. That's my opinion.
For me, I think this is not something that will be embraced by most Kenyans because for us, personally, for me, I feel the matatu industry, in as much as it has all this that are not so effective, is a source of pride for us because there's a lot of graffiti art and going around this that is so much creative that the matatu industry is actually promoting the creative industry. So when Uber comes into such a space, they now pose a threat, and I don't think for one, people will embrace it as much as they have embraced it in the way they are currently using it as a taxi service. That's okay. That's fine. People have embraced that. But I don't think in terms of matatus, that's going to work in Kenya. I think people love matatus. Matatus are for people, and in as much as we may say they are inefficient and what they actually get the job done when you need the job to be done. In as much as, let's say, for example, the Swivel are doing something similar where they take you from Lingata to town for 100 shillings, where you could board a matatu for 30 bob. So you can see someone, and in most cases, those people who are commuting towards work are mostly the people in the middle to lower financial brackets. So I don't think they will actually go for Uber matatu. I just don't think that would work in Kenya.
Yeah, totally agree with you there. That's very true, because if you look at which pair of people use Uber right now, it's actually middle class and upper class, right? Most people use the conventional way, which is the matatu, which is it's a pride for Kenyans, right? And I don't think Uber do much there in terms of, unless they really provide very, very, very low prices. Otherwise, I feel like it's a bit tricky. Maybe in Kenya, maybe in the Western world, they could find a market for that. But in Kenya, I don't see.
I think it would be a good idea for such a system to be implemented in remote areas. Remote in the form of, for example, the high-end areas. Runda is a whole estate which no matatu enters. If you have such a system around that area, the Runda estate, or Kitusuru, Karen areas, because the matatus just follow the main roads. So if you have Uber, quote-unquote, that will enter into homes and estates, that would be better compared to having a public means of transport. So I think that's how it might work, compared to working as a normal in competing with normal transport, public transport.
This actually, what you've said brings me back to something we talked about earlier on. Like, most of these solutions are solutions that are produced by foreigners and foreign companies. They're not really homegrown. Yeah. And in a way, it's so sad to say, but it's in a way elitist or classist in a way, because not everyone can really use. Considering like in Kenya, 60% of the population earn less than 10,000 shillings. Yeah. So not many people can afford that service. Yeah. So from my point of view, I think that if you were to embrace like more homegrown solutions to things, it will be of much better value. Because like for the technology, actually I was a proponent of the Uber and mass transit thing, but actually after hearing your arguments, I see there are gaps that especially the pricing. Yeah. So I think maybe if there were more of homegrown or home-driven initiatives to fix the problems we have using technology, they will probably be much more relevant, and much more effective considering the local situation. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, the home people would know the problem. So, for example, even just with this sitting, we have realized maybe it's where exactly it would fit into the system. So, as even the argument you were having earlier on Jumia, they probably did not involve the African, quote unquote, in their initial proposal and budget. Now we realize there's a whole other ecosystem, which is making way more. It's the biggest that is WhatsApp, for example. It's the biggest e-commerce platform that we have in Africa. So you see, involving people who are locally bound into solutions that you're trying to bring into a country, even as foreigners, I think it is important because they know the loopholes.
I think that I've had my frustrations with the matatu industry, as maybe just to not add, maybe to oppose what Levi has said. I'm one of those people who counts the inefficiencies I experience, especially in matatus. So let's say this year, every 2 weeks I encounter a matatu which doesn't serve me as I would want to. It's always they either hike the price midway, or they when I'm just trying to alight, not alight, get onto the matatu when it's at this bus stage. Now there's this other matatu which is in front, and then this other matatu which is at the back. They're competing to get passengers, and then this happened to me like 2 weeks ago. So the conductor for the matatu which was ahead of us, the conductor came and closed the door for the matatu which I was in, and we were locked in there like prisoners, and then they were banging on the window telling us that, this is not the matatu that you're supposed to climb. The time for this matatu to go that direction is out. The inefficiency, the matatus, to be honest, they treat from my own experience, not all experiences, but from some experiences that I've had, I haven't found it to be efficient, respectful, and sometimes even, especially in the morning, you'd find a conductor who is drunk to the core, drunk, staggering, drunk on the aisle, asking you for money, and the formalization of now even matatus, I'd like it to be more client driven, as in we should respect the transport system that is going to be introduced, like the BRT system, is going to target people from a certain financial bracket, such that even when you're seated in the bus transit system, you can open your laptop and actually work. You can open your book and not fear or just start using your phone without having to fear that someone will come and snatch it out of the window. Those are things that I think, we've seen happening, and we'd like them to change. So even for that idea, personally, for me, I think it would work for me personally, considering I have my frustrations with the current system. So yeah.
Would you pay a premium for that?
Yes, for the sake of my peace of mind.
But would you use your computer and laptop in it?
In our BRT system?
Yeah.
I hope so.
And the person sitting next to you is waiting to alight with you.
That is the hope. That is the hope, Bana. That is the hope.
Michelle, that's a very good insight.
That is the hope.
Yeah.
It's a very good insight. In fact, I think there are many people out there who share the same sentiment as you. I hope Uber is listening for that.
Amen. Yeah.
Yeah.
But sorry.
Continue.
I think the point I wanted to bring across was as much as we can say the matatu system is wrong and flawed, we realize that we have put them in a position whereby they can be able to oppress us in the form of, we have no other option,
Yes.
It's a private sector and they will run quote unquote however they want to. So I personally feel like it's government's job to provide transport systems for its citizens so they can make it a bit more efficient compared, as opposed to letting your citizens be traumatized and
Yes.
abused by private sectors who just the government should do something about
Provide
it.
a suitable alternative.
Exactly, so that we are not oppressed to one's solution situation. Yeah.
For me, we had this discussion earlier, and I was saying I was against it. For me, one of the main reasons I'm against that, especially in Kenya, because it works in other countries, like in Sweden, that the public transport system is free.
In the US.
Yeah, even in other countries. I don't know which other countries. Personally, I know of Sweden. I have a friend who lives there, so he told me that was one of the first things that really, he found really convenient after leaving Kenya. But for me, for Kenya specifically, is you see all these public initiatives started by the government, but they always end up being mismanaged and like you either have resources misallocated, they're just running efficiently. Because before, things like Kenya Bus used to run really well. They were very efficient. They would go, they worked on, it's like every 15 minutes there's a car. It doesn't matter whether it's full or whether it's empty. So it means that you're assured of the pickup times and the drop-off times, and there's adequate service, and the fares are standard. There isn't any arbitrary pricing when it comes to the service providers. But considering the current state, for me, that's the main qualm I have with having the Kenyan government as it is in the present moment, getting something new.
Yeah.
I think the government just picks up a few things. They'd go to the US, see their buses are yellow. All Kenyan schools have to paint their buses yellow. They'd go see the taxis have a yellow line.
Yeah.
All Kenyan taxis have to have a yellow, or matatus have to have a yellow line. Or they go to, I think, China, they see the traffic police are wearing blue. All Kenyan traffic police have to wear blue. But they're not picking out the important things that would actually help the citizens. For example, free transportation, security, and all these other good things that they can be able to learn from other countries. So I feel like it's about time they should start styling up and doing things that are right.
That will never happen.
They should start. No, that's the mentality people should change. It should start happening. We need to demand it. It's their duty to do that. We pay them for that.
Maybe just to tear the government.
Hey, I think you're in the wrong sitting.
I think the initiative, what they're doing with these great buses, the NYS buses, is really good.
Yes,
because,
NYS.
Because I think in those buses are run by people who are paramilitary trained. So I think that guarantees security to some extent. And
Yeah.
you always know that when you get into these bars, it's 20 shillings, no matter how far you're going, and no matter if it's raining or it's sunny. So I think.
But what youths do they use? I have never seen any. What color? Is it the green ones?
They are like two, the green ones. They are like
Just
two
two?
route. Because
to
the government
country.
wanted to pilot the program. I think so far it's really working well. So I think it's time the government just upgraded and brought in more buses. I think they are doing a fantastic job in ensuring that we have better services.
So is it just anyone who can go?
Yeah, anyone can just get in and pay 20 bob.
But they're very full all the time. Hey.
But because they are of the very low pricing, you will find that they are usually very long lines that people are waiting. For these buses. Like I usually see one every day at Wayaki, where just opposite Safaricom Center. Yeah, people just waiting for the green bus. But I think it's a step in the right direction. So in as much as we love criticizing the government for not doing the job, which they actually don't do, this is actually a step in the right direction. Yeah.
For me, I'd say when you talk about that solution, the main question I have is regards its sustainability. You see, it seems like it's a nice gesture. Yeah, it's affordable, and in a small scale, it can work. Yeah, the government can afford it even if it's making a loss. Yeah, but is it scalable?
Is it a loss really though?
Even if I'm not
It
sure.
shouldn't be a loss.
I'm not sure. So that's one of the things we
It
do
should
not
not be a
know.
loss.
We do not know. But the question is it sustainable? If there's also a certain level of transparency as to how these things work, I think that will also go an extra mile into to get public support for such things. Yeah.
I don't think it should be counted as a loss. If anything, the losses we're incurring is a person being driven by 5 cars to one destination. I still do not understand that. Is it that the security system is you're trying to defend yourself because you say it's security?
Yeah.
Are you defending yourself from the people who selected you into that chair? So I don't understand. If that's the loss we're counting, we should start with that. We should also start with the losses that our MPs are asking for more money for them to work for us. So if losses are being counted, transporting your citizen for 20 shillings should not be counted as a loss.
I'm saying it as a loss from a purely business perspective. I'm not talking it about as
This is not business, it's a government. A government.
Is it sustainable?
If I don't know, should we check Google and see what a government should be doing?
It provides services.
Exactly.
It's people. But
Yes.
from my point of view, whatever services are being provided by that government should be sustainable.
Collect tax too.
Should be sustainable in the long term. But I get your point. You're talking about like these VIPs who can use any lane of the highway, who do really disrupt traffic.
Yeah, in
And,
case a self-driving car is coming on that lane,
It's really
Yeah, exactly.
imagine, and them racing 3
Yes.
cars.
it's really inconveniencing, and it's really annoying. And I think that is a culture thing, because I don't think that happens in other countries. Yeah, so I think that's also a culture. In Kenya, we are taught to revere power. Someone told me once that power must be felt. At least that's the Kenyan perception of it. Yeah. So by occupying a certain status in society, and this is political, because that's the only status that can accord you such privileges. They get, because that's abuse, because it's still illegal what they're doing. It's not legal. So I think
I find it funny that the people who are having all these privileges pay 0 tax. So they don't even feel it. I'm here paying 30% tax and I feel like crying every day. And the people who are abusing the money I'm making are out here living lavishly, and I'm being forced and you're telling me it's a loss for them to pay for them to get me a car to pay 20 bob to go to work, to pay the taxes that they're going to come and abuse.
but you see, the loss is not on them personally.
It should be felt. A loss should be felt the same way power should be felt.
The only question is sustainability, whether it's viable in the long term. If you have, let's say we have 100 buses, NOS buses across Nairobi, operating across all stages, can the government afford to provide this service to at this scale, and maybe even at a greater scale, in a manner that is sustainable in the long term? Can it be? I'll use a good example of Ethiopian Airways. Ethiopian Airways is the best airline in Africa right now, because even though it started off with some level of government support, they run it in a way that is self-sufficient, and because of that, they are the best in terms of quality. They're the best in terms of the facilities they have to train whether it's their flight attendants and their pilots, because they kept sustainability in mind. So my point is not that it shouldn't be done. My point is it's a good initiative. Yeah. My point is we should just make sure that it's sustainable. And I think transparency will also will also contribute to that, because if we see that it operates with this margin, because margins are not the point here, just to make sure that the bills are payable. And so if that information is available to the public, we can come up with creative ways to make sure that it is actually affordable for the government in the long term, and that any resources that would have gone to sustain it or to propel it, because it's not unsustainable, can actually be allocated to something else that can provide much more value in another place. Yeah, it's more about efficiencies rather than it not being right or wrong. I think it's a good initiative. However, we used those buses; they are very comfortable. The service is great, and they're always timely. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, maybe we can end on that note. I think that what we need is better, period. So
Quality.
maybe on the last story that I'd like us to speak on is on a lighter note, Instagram. So Instagram now wants to hide the number of likes that you get from your followers. So a section of the statement that they put out was, we want your followers to focus on what you share, not how many likes your post gets. So during this test, only the person who shares a post will see the total number of likes it gets. So all you Instagram enthusiasts, what do you think about this?
So the people, if you post, you can see your likes, but the people who
Yes.
like the post cannot see the likes.
Yes.
It's a Kardashians. After Kylie had the most liked
Likes,
photo on Instagram up until the egg. So I think it had something to do with that, because they realized they cannot catch up with the egg. So it's Kylie, the Kardashians.
So what do you think it says about social media right now? Are people just checking likes?
For me, I think it's a play on human psychology.
Yes.
Because once you see, you're more likely to like something if you see other people have liked it, because it signals
Really?
approval. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it is
That's
validation.
That's why
yeah.
ratings work. Yeah, because you see if let's say you're in an online store, yeah, and then you see one thing has more ratings than the other. Even if this has lower quality or better, regardless of the quality, you're more inclined to look at the ones with higher rating. It's something to do with decision making. So there's that hard mentality. So I think, in a way, personally, I think it will really influence also, like, because let's say for the example, the Instagram models or socialites who make cash out of their social media presence. So to some extent, I wonder whether I don't know.
Why do you think they've made this information private? Only for the person who's...
Yeah, exactly. It's all about the mentality. You want to be part of something, so you're paying attention to it. Maybe you're saying, "Oh, people like it. Why people like it? Let me just like it." And also,
Okay.
and also, it's also like, imagine if we all had a secret here. All four of us were sharing a secret, and we're not telling you. You'd feel like, hey, I want to be part of that, because you feel like you're part of it. So when we tell you, you join, and you that hard mentality, like, now I'm part of this clique. Now I'm part of a Kardashian. When you're going into a social media,
That's
like,
the egg.
Yeah. Maybe speak about the egg. You have a t-shirt of the egg, and you feel you're part of this social norm. So it's all about the psychological aspect, being part of something. Like, I think even when I'm buying products from Amazon or anywhere, I usually look at how many reviews, how many people liked it. 1,200 people have bought this, and there's another product which is maybe better, but less people have bought into it. Right. So it's also that biasness. It's the whole Apple mentality. People buy an Apple because Apple is like this, but ideally, if you look at features, Androids are way more superior, but you still buy an Apple product because of the brand. So yeah.
To me, I think this is a good thing, in the sense that people now focus more on the content rather than the amount of likes the content got. So, for example, if you are a social media influencer, but right now that is judged by the number of followers you got. But if this actually succeeds, you will no longer be judged by the number of followers you got, but the quality of work you produce. So you might be a shitty guy right now, but in social media you have like 2 million likes or followers, or that, people will go to you no matter the content you produce. But when it gets to the point where people don't know how many likes you've got, they just see your content, it brings in meaning to the whole Instagram thing, because I think now things are so superficial, and we need to add some quality to it. So to me personally, I think this is a great thing. It shifts focus from what's really currently, which is not important, to what's really important, which is the content of whatever you're posting. So I really welcome this move.
What happens to now some of us, look, not me, well, not me, who have a huge following on Insta, and the only way we get gratification is by seeing the likes. And also
From other people seeing the likes.
Exactly, because if, as Ian said, you need, it's the same way you'd watch a YouTube video. You'd only watch a YouTube video because you see it has, for example, have you ever seen these videos? Like you see, for example, Drake featuring whatever, and then you start listening to the song, and then you look at the views. See, it's quite a lot of views, but then you see the likes, and you see the dislikes are more than the likes, and you know it's somebody who sings well. Then only up until listening to the song 5 seconds in, do you realize it's a wrong video, like it's a cover or something. So you see, those are the things that help you. It preempts into what to expect. For example, in that I could see the dislikes are most, so I know this is a fake video, I'd move on. Same way with Instagram. If I want to know if this person is liked, for example, if I'm an investor and I'd want a model, so how do I tell? Do I wait for them to send me screenshots? You know, we can be able to buy likes on Instagram. So do I wait to see screenshots from them? They might be lying. So you see, there's a lot which goes into this play, whereby I feel like some of us would lose.
Personally, I think if you look at it from a data point of view, I don't know how it works. I don't know whether Facebook actually determines, let's say, the categories of images and the number of likes they get. Yeah, but if people aren't psychologically primed to like a particular thing, so it means their reactions will be much more honest on a relative scale. Yeah, so the data you get, if they are actually collecting data from the images, and I'm assuming the images are tagged, so if they categorize the images according to the criteria according to which they are tagged, and they can determine the level of the number of likes associated or attributed to the specific tagged images, since the likes are much more pure, the people are less influenced by other people, so the like will actually be more genuine. It will actually be something that you are really interested in, yeah, as compared to a like you'll have made previously before, because you're not primed at this particular moment. So maybe it could be an initiative to get cleaner data. Not clean in the sense of distortion, but more honest. And then maybe, like you've said, maybe when you mentioned something about whether like getting the stats to proving like you have a certain, how do you put it? Yeah, influence. Yeah, maybe they're developing a tool that will now do that. Maybe it's something they can charge for. You don't know. It's just something that I've thought of right now.
I feel not happy about it.
But
It could be a play on monetization.
No, I don't. I just don't want people. I don't want to be able to see my likes alone. I want everybody to see the likes I'm getting.
That's your inner narcissist. You're all narcissists.
I'm sorry, but I have to feed my ego. So I think it should be an option. I think it should be an option. It should not be compulsory for everybody. I think it should be an option. If I want people to see my likes, I should have the freedom to do so. If I don't want people to see my likes because I am insecure, let me.
But there's an option on SoundCloud. On SoundCloud, I see sometimes the number of plays on certain podcasts is shown, and on certain places
it's not shown.
Yeah.
So maybe Instagram, if you're out there listening, I think that you should put an option.
But then you see, this is also interesting because it shows actually how social media plays on our, on our psychology.
Yes. I'd like to study this in the next
dopamine
few weeks.
rush you get, and like,
that's all about it.
I have these likes. Other guys can also see that I have these likes. So there's
it makes us happy. So let us see.
but they don't reflect on who you are personally.
I'm a narcissist, so let me have it.
Let us be.
I read somewhere that apparently you are apparently if something you like, right? So you like this thing, you're associated to that thing. That means the value of that thing is your value. Your value is based on what you like. So your value is based on digital data. I mean, that's how low it has come to society.
But digital data secures your bag. Secures a bag.
Ideally, it's kind of crazy if you think about it. I mean, like next time you're like, oh, I got a like, I feel good. You're like, oh my god, this thing made me. There's a guy out there.
Haven't you guys posted and then you see the likes increasing and you're happy?
But there's a guy out there who controls how you feel today. I mean, like if there's a dislike, you'd be like,
No, they don't go. They just add on. It's more of like I'd be happy, yes, but then they just add on. Oh, they're fueling my head. I'm growing a big. So let it be as I want it.
But I think, guys, you're forgetting the fact that you, as the owner of the post, still get to see these likes.
I want everybody
no
to
one
see.
else will see it because
But what with that?
come on, guys.
I want everybody to see. I just
what-
don't want to be the only one saying.
But what
They
will
need
other
to know.
people say?
Tambia nini watu?
And how the haters know? How the haters know you're famous? You
Yeah.
just be like, hey, look.
But no, guys, let me
I'll be
just ask you a simple
screenshotting.
question. Let's take YouTube, for example, the views. I think Despacito is the song with the highest number of views. Do you really want to mean that Despacito is the greatest song that has ever been produced?
It's not the
on earth?
greatest.
Yeah, I mean,
But-
have you guys listened to some other songs and you see they have
Like which
10,000
one?
views and you're like, no, this song, no, this is injustice to this song. So I think the fact that you will now focus not on the likes or on the
Are you trying to
views,
say you had an injustice?
No, I'm just trying to say that the social media thing is more about the journey and not the destination. To have many likes, it's just what you are seeing before you get to the likes. I mean, come on. And again, you're also forgetting one thing. If today, where everybody sees your likes and you get an average of 500 likes a day, and Instagram hides this stuff, and you still get those 500 likes every single day, don't you feel more legitimized? Like, these were not fake people.
No.
These were actually real
I want people to
showing
see.
real
I
love.
also want people to see. So does that mean I'll be
it
taking
does
a
help. It does
screenshot
help, right?
and posting that photo so everyone
I think
can
you
see?
could do that. You
But
could
then
have
what
your
if I
photo
post and
a
then
follow-up.
one more like is added? I feel like it should be natural. Let people see. If you want that option for people to see, you should have it. If you want to feed your ego, but if not, then you cannot hide it. You don't need to feel justified.
But the ego is never satisfied,
I'd like to wrap up. Maybe our listeners can give us feedback on what they think. This okay. Hey, still have a point?
Yeah. This is just for the now conspiracy theory in me.
Yeah.
Cynthia said during the start of this thing that this might be a conspiracy from the Kardashians as revenge for us liking the egg. So, to the listeners, what do you think? Is this a conspiracy?
Go and unlike the egg. We see if it will come back.
True.
Unlike the egg, guys.
I like the egg, man.
True. I really think that we've had a fruitful conversation. And if our listeners would like to comment or just give us feedback on what they think about the topic that we've discussed about, please leave a comment, or you can contact us at techforgranted@gmail.com. And you can also listen to our podcast on any platform that you'd like to listen to podcasts. That's on SoundCloud, Google Play, even Spotify right now. So please share with a friend on topics that you'd like on. Just share with a friend on our nice podcast here. So thank you guys for listening, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.